This is Six Tackles with Gus, with Matthew Thompson and Gus Gould.
Hello there, welcome to Six Tackles with Gus, round 23 coming up. Gee, the finals aren't far away. On the show today, the Knights are flying. Could they possibly make the finals? Surely not. Gus loves spending cash, we all know that. Looks like he's got a blank checkbook out there at Belmore. We've got some favourite old school league stories after last week's hilarity about the gynaecologist being the Panthers doctor. We'll ask Gus, we'll look at round 23. Gus, I cannot believe Six Tackles with Gus has won a Logie. I've walked in, there's a Logie sitting here. I didn't even know we were nominated.
I doubt it did. Somehow.
What is it?
No, I think that's the one from the... that's the one you've won with the Origin.
Oh, it's the Origin. Well, I walked in and thought we won another one.
Yeah, very good for the Channel 9 team. Wonderful.
Only joking. Congratulations to all of our wonderful colleagues here at Nine's Wide World of Sports and in the Rugby League department, which Gus and I are very proud to be part of, winning the best sports coverage for State of Origin. And I noticed in an email sent from our boss, actually, that while a lot of those awards are voted by the public, this one's actually a peer-voted award. And as you know, in rugby league and sport, the awards voted by your peers are the ones that are the most cherished, Gus.
Yep, wonderful for all our staff. I spoke last week about the great team that we have here at Channel 9, the greatest team that I've ever been involved with anywhere. Wonderful people, they all work so hard. Those of us that you hear and see on the TV screen are just at the pointy end of what is a great production team and a wonderful organisation, and it's for those people behind the scenes. Our job's the easy one. It really is. They're the ones that do all the hard work and thoroughly deserving of recognition like that. And as you say, it was from the peers in the industry. It wasn't voted by the fans or the viewers. It was voted by those that know television and production extremely well. And they excel with Origins, well, with all our broadcasts really, but particularly around Origin, how much work and time and energy they put into it. And there's a lot of work goes into it, and it's a wonderful achievement.
Yep, really is. Congratulations to the team here. Thanks to everyone at home for watching too. And we've got the finals coming up, and everyone knows that the Wide World of Sports does big sport better than anyone. Let's kick it off.
No.
That's the rule.
No. Dear.
One of the great things about professional sport, and I suppose with respect to this question, international cricket, is that you fight it hard on the field, and when it's all over, you go in and crack a beer and say, well done, mate. Well played. Well, the Poms, they didn't want to have a beer with Australia, so my question to you is, Gus, would you want to have a drink with the England cricket team?
Absolutely.
They brushed us.
I never said I'd like them. I just said I'd like to have a beer with them.
Would you?
Yeah.
I'd
like to have that was one of my favourite things about growing up and playing rugby league. When you first came into grade football and came into first grade football, back in the 70s when I first started, the main competition was a Sydney competition. All the teams were here in Sydney, and it's actually how I learnt to get around Sydney, was going to football grounds. You know, driving from the western suburbs over to Brookvale or down to Cronulla or Cogra Oval, all those sort of things. But the big thrill in those days was, like, you'd play your game. Whether you played lower grades or played first grade, you'd play your game, then you'd go back to the opposition leagues club after the game and have a few beers with the opposition team. And that's where you got to know everybody and you got to socialise. There was no random breath testing in those days. You could have a few beers and still drive home. So our Sunday football, and most football was on Sunday. There was only one Saturday game. Everything else was played on a Sunday. Remember the old round the ground scores?
Yeah, because everything was played at the same time.
They'll tell you all the other games were played at the same time. They'd call out the scores from around the other grounds, and people would cheer and boo and all that. But the big thing was to go back to the opposition leagues club, or they would come back to your leagues club for a few beers after the game. And I can offer, Manly Leagues Club, and Eastern Suburbs Leagues Club, North Sydney Leagues Club, St George Leagues Club, Cronulla Leagues Club, Balmain Leagues Club, all these Canterbury Leagues Club, whoever you played against, you went back to their club, met their players who you just battled with on the field of play, and have a few beers with them. And, the competition on the field was fierce, but off the field, you build up great relationships. It's where I first met Paul Thornton, was at Manly Leagues Club after a game, playing him in a game at Brookvale Oval. It's where I met a lot of players back in the day. And
did he walk up and give it these ones?
He didn't have the head wobble in those days. But that was wonderful. And then you drive back to your own leagues club and
keep going.
And keep going through to the end of the night. Well, they had discos in there. Disco's dead, isn't it? They don't have discos anymore?
Disco's alive, baby.
Is it?
Oh, well, yeah. Well,
I haven't heard of a disco for a long time.
I think it's more R&B now.
They used to have a disco.
Did you have the big shirt with a big collar?
No,
Flares?
probably not.
Is that flares?
I wasn't a slave. At my school dance, in sixth form, year 12, I think I had flares, high-waisted flares.
Oh, the Jackson 5 style.
And high-heeled shoes.
Did ya?
Yeah, I think we had those. I think that was the fashion.
I'd love to see you.
High-waisted trousers, flares.
Did you give it the Saturday night fever?
Mum took me over. She drove all the way from where we lived at Maryland. She took me over to Bankstown Square. That was the new shopping centre.
Yeah.
And got me fitted for high-waisted flares.
Yeah.
It was the only time I ever wore them.
And what about, did you get the matching jacket, safari-style jacket?
I had a safari-style jacket, yeah, absolutely. When I started my first work, I used to work for a couple of finance companies, BFC Finance and Custom Credit. I was working for Custom Credit at Bankstown, and you had to wear a coat. I used to wear a safari suit.
To work?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
They were huge.
I can see the art on our social media channels right now.
Absolutely.
Anyway, back to the
cricket.
But
going and having.
Why would they not have a beer with the Australians?
Going and having a beer, but even when I played cricket back in the day, it was the big thing. That was the part of sport. We didn't play for money back in the early. There was no money in football in those days. It wasn't. It was about the camaraderie in the team and just playing. I wonder how many players today would play for nothing. If there was no money in the game, how many would actually play it?
That's a really good question.
How
many league players do you reckon in the dealings you have? Would there be many that would play for the love of the game?
I think it would be the smaller percentage.
Yeah.
I think it would be the smaller percentage that would still play.
Yeah.
I might be a little old and critical there, but
I think you're right.
Certainly, and I don't want to sound old-fashioned, but really it was for the love of the game, the camaraderie, the being part of a team, and the relationships you had, and blokes that I played with back then are still mates today. It's and when you're with them, it's just like nothing's ever changed. But going and having a beer with your opponent after the game, football or cricket, didn't matter what it was a big thrill.
Why haven't England had a beer with the Australians?
I
Why are they
don't
so
know.
grumpy? What's wrong with these people?
What happened? What they
so they
well, they cheated. They cheated.
Oh, the ball.
The ball.
Have you seen anything like that in your life?
Never. I couldn't believe it.
It's not England wasn't cheating. What are the umpires doing?
What are they doing?
That ball was, I reckon, 10 overs old. The one that they swapped it for.
It still had the gold writing on it.
It's outrageous. Outrageous.
I think it takes 2 overs for that gold writing to disappear.
I actually can't believe that happened.
If it doesn't rain on day 4, they weren't getting those 2 out.
No.
That pitch had become a road. They were just driving through the ball. They were going to get the runs on their own.
Yeah,
it rained twice and cost us. And when Smith and Head were in, they weren't going to get them 2 out either until it rained the second time, and then they come back.
Travis didn't play a great shot.
No.
But if that was if that was the other way around, there'd be universal outrage. Universal outrage if Australia swapped the ball out here like that.
Yeah.
Anyway. A couple of things. So Wisden, which is the Bible for cricket, or allegedly, fast undermining their reputation as far as I'm concerned. They pick a team of the series, composite team of the series that featured 8 English people, and have a guess who the keeper was. Johnny Bairstow. Seriously, wouldn't catch a cold in a blizzard, and they've picked him as the keeper.
Really?
My goodness. Anyhow, Mark Waugh, who I regard Mark Waugh along with Mark Taylor as probably the most impartial, thoughtful commentators on the game in Australia. He made a great comment on Twitter the other day. He said, 2-2, probably a fair outcome. And I like that. Probably a fair outcome to the series.
Yeah, it could have gone. They all could have gone either way. Any of the games could have gone either way.
Yep. Well done. Anyway, the Ian's coming back here, and England got to come out here to win it, and that won't be happening. On the subject of sport away from Rugby League 2, is Kaylee McKeown the greatest backstroke swimmer ever? Yes! Oh, yeah. So she won the 50, 100 and 200 at the World Champs, which has never been done before. In fact, no swimmer, male or female, had won the 50, 100, 200 in the same stroke at the same World Championships. It happened twice this time.
Where is it in 100 years? How low do these records go?
Yeah, I know. I often think that.
Do they just jump in and touch the other end? I mean, how quick can
With
they
an
do
outboard
it?
motor? Well,
Look at all the great swimmers we've seen throughout history, and someone just does it quicker.
So you would think it just comes down so minutely. But Marchand, the Frenchman, beat Michael Phelps' world record in the 400 IM, which is the longest standing world record, and he beat it by a second and a half. So they are with
Fabulous.
sports science and stuff. Anyway, Kaylee won 50, 100, 200. She's the world record holder in the 100 and the 200. She's the Olympic gold medalist in the 100 and the 200. That was awesome. The Dolphins were so good for that 8 days. They won 13 gold medals. They beat the United States. Just the third time in history Australia's beaten the United States, Gus. 56 Olympics. 2001, Fukuoka, when Ian Thorpe won 6 gold. And last week, looking pretty good heading to Paris. That's all.
Can't wait.
Okay. Cameron McInnes, first bloke picked for New South Wales 2024.
No, how's he the first bloke picked?
We talked about this a few weeks ago, and after
Yeah.
what he did the other night,
He-
if he's
he-
not an Origin player, I'll dead set walk to the moon in my hands.
Yeah, he would have played Origin if he was a Queenslander by now, but he won't be the first bloke picked for New South Wales next year. In fact, he probably won't get picked at all. But
Really?
I would buy him tomorrow. Wonderful
You
club
bought everyone
player,
else, you
eh?
may as well.
Well, yeah, he's a wonderful team man.
So you don't
wonderful
think
player.
Cameron McInnes? I mean, not that we
No,
need
I'm
any
not
further
saying.
proof.
No, wait on. Don't put words in my mouth. I'm not saying that he couldn't play Origin. Of course he could. The question is, he will be the first player picked for New South Wales. He won't.
That's true. Okay, can I change it? Cameron McInnes will play for New South Wales in 2024.
No.
I don't think they'll pick him. Now, no, I don't think they'll pick him. But if they did, would he do a good job? Of course he would. He would do a good job in any team. Do you want to ask me, should they pick him?
Yep. Should they pick him?
No.
No, I'm doing that.
Oh. Right. I was getting very confused.
They should give him a run. Just have a look at it. You know, see how it is. Look what Jake Trebojevic does for them. You know, like a player in the middle that wants to work that hard and do so much work, and incredible what he did the other night. Wow.
So you saw some barbaric things back when you were playing, but as far as bravery goes, does that sit alongside some of the great performances? Like, I mean, 84 tackles. Did you see his head after the game? It's like he'd been in a UFC fight.
Yeah, he always gets opened up. He's incredible constitution for hard work.
Yeah.
Brilliant. He just kept every time, you know, and a lot of those tackles are from marker where he's sprinting out and putting pressure on the first man to run the ball. And once you get there and he keeps getting up to marker, he keeps going again. So what he did was he never dodged his responsibility. If the job in the defensive system is for the marker to go out and put pressure on the first receiver, he did it every time. Every time I watched it, every time he was there, he did it. He very rarely got back in the line because he was at marker making so many tackles repeatedly, so he was always at marker. So the job of the marker is to get involved with the next one. He just kept doing it. Some players will do it once or twice. Some players will go to marker and make another tackle, and then they find a way to dodge the next assignment. He didn't. And even the ones where he worked from marker but couldn't get to the man who had the ball because they'd passed it or done something, he was still there in case he needed to be. He could have made another 100. He was in the area to make another 100 during the course of the game, which is tremendous constitution for hard work, great toughness, great courage, fearless, and so fit, so absolutely fit to keep doing that. And I don't know how you leave a player out there doing that much work.
He played the 80 minutes too.
I know, that's what I mean.
Crazy.
I mean, that was cruel. I don't know how you do that, how you leave them there doing all that work. Surely he could have been given a breather at some stage.
He mightn't have wanted one, Gus.
Well, maybe not, and maybe the coach doesn't feel comfortable without him out there. You know, the Sharks have been leaking points all the way along, and it's certainly not Cameron McInnes' fault. And it was an extraordinary performance, but you can't keep asking a player to do that every week. That's just inhuman. You can't do that.
Yeah, I just sort of wonder about. I mean, we talked about this, and it was fascinating. Your comments a couple of weeks ago about him and the different philosophies, but you can't help but think with him in an Origin team that those effort areas, they're going to be paramount.
Well, that's one job you don't have to worry about.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things you've got to worry about, but if you pick him, that's one job you don't have to worry about. Who's going to be doing the work out of marker, and who's going to be doing the work in the middle of the field, and who's going to be pressuring kickers, and who's going to be getting out and chopping down the legs of the big blokes before they get to the advantage line. All those sort of things that they ask them to do, which some players can do for a little while. Some blokes can do it now and then. Some blokes choose to find a way not to do it. Cameron McInnes, every time he was in a position where that was his job, he did his job. He never shirked it once, and he ran to his tackles. He sprinted towards his tackles. He never He never fudged. He never ran half pace and hoped someone made the tackle before he got there. If it was his job to be first into the tackle, he was first into the tackle every time. If it was his job to be second or third into the tackle, to wrap up the ball or to wrap up around the legs, he did it every time. He never missed an assignment once. I watched it. I kept thinking, we're all sitting there counting the tackles, but I watched him. He was available to make another 100 tackles if need be.
Crazy.
It was, I've never seen anything like it. It was superhuman.
He's brilliant. I love him. And let's hope the Sharks can get something going, maybe on the back of his effort. Question here, Magic Round in Adelaide, yes or no?
No.
Let me tell you the best place for Magic Round. Right? There's one or two, Sydney or Auckland. They're your two options for the next Magic Round, or Magic Rounds into the future. You know, we've given Brisbane a few goes, and it's been great up there. The thing about Sydney, we do have 9 teams here in Sydney, and we have 2 teams a bus ride away in Newcastle and Canberra. There are a lot of rugby league fans here in Sydney who never get to experience Magic Round, to get out and watch all the games and do all that. And I think we've certainly got the facilities for it, and we would have the support. It would get the support. I can't understand why we keep ignoring Sydney for Magic Round.
Is it not is one of the attractions of Magic Round that you play all at the same ground?
Yeah, why can't we do that?
So you'd say the same ground? Because I've heard people advocating for Sydney, but to use 2 grounds. So Allianz and Sydney Olympic Park. But that wouldn't work, would it?
That would only be political sharing. No, you do it at ANZ Stadium and get the 80,000 people in there. Homebush, plenty of room, plenty of parking. You could have all your stalls outside like they do with the Easter show, and do the whole precinct for the whole weekend. Every club could have their major sponsors in marquees, and you have membership booths, and you could have entertainment, and you could have something going on in the indoor centre there next door, and you could have you'd be set it up for like a whole Easter show area. You could have the ride, you could eat rides and show bags and toffee apples, fairy flosses. You could do the whole bit outside and inside. You just open up the whole venue for the whole weekend, and once you got a ticket in, you can go anywhere and do anything for the whole. It's going to be wonderful in Sydney. I think you get great support for it.
Yeah.
And for accommodation and other events going on at the time, I'm sure racing would boom for that weekend, and there'll be all sorts of things. I can't understand why Sydney's not considered. It should be considered. And the other one, of course, is New Zealand, who are getting bumper crowds for the Warriors over there, starved of rugby league action during the COVID years, and a great payback to the country for all their support and everything that the Warriors did for the NRL. I think Auckland could be another place where
I like Auckland.
We have a Magic Round, but certainly Sydney. I could see Sydney easily open it up like an Easter show. Open up the whole precinct like the Easter show and everything. You could market the game unbelievably. It would be so entertaining for kids, and everything. You could just have an Easter show combined rugby league extravaganza.
Would we have a 6 tackles show bag?
Yes.
What would we have in it?
A Logie.
A plastic one.
I don't know what you'd put in a 6 tackle show bag. No.
We'd have a Gus bobblehead.
But we'd have a Channel 9 marquee. We'd have all the major sponsors could be represented with marquees, and anyone else associated with the game. I think it'd be brilliant. I think it could be brilliant. I think
you've been thinking about this.
Sydney would be a perfect venue for all of that.
We would have a Gus bobblehead that talks to you.
Cowboys spilled their lollies the other night.
They did too.
They lost one to suspension now.
Well,
that's what happens, see, when you make a long run.
Knights to make the finals. Last question here.
Yes, I think so.
How's their run home? Let me have a look here.
It's not too bad, actually.
Dolphins over in Perth?
Yep. No, they're not playing the Dolphins.
Huh? Yeah, they're
Newcastle.
playing the Dolphins.
Newcastle this week.
They're playing the Dolphins in Perth.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay. Dolphin versus... Oh, so we've got a double header over there, haven't we?
Yes, that's right.
That's right. I'm calling the Rabbit versus Shark later that night. Dolphin versus Knight over there. The following week they play Bulldog.
Well, they got no hope there.
They beat them by 60 last time.
South Sydney in Newcastle Sunday afternoon.
I'll be there for that.
Round 26. Sharkies. At home.
We've got
4 o'clock Sunday afternoon.
We've got the wobbly boot. Yeah.
Whoa. Not bad, eh? And, hey? Dragons.
And Dragons in the last round.
Crikey.
I think Knights will be playing finals football. Yes, they're in good form. I said last week here on this podcast, I declared them against Canberra. I said, not only win, they'll win easy. Canberra were favourites. I said, not just win, they'll win easy. They won easily. They were far too good for them. I think they're playing really good football.
So, Shark out, Knight in.
That's the way I'm seeing it at the moment. That's the way I'm seeing it at the moment.
So the coach is going to be there next year, which they said that they haven't made any commitments beyond that.
Well, why would they be looking to change the coach?
Well, I don't know. There's all this. There's been this hysteria whip up in the last week about. I mean, clearly they've had a discussion with Justin Holbrook. Well, they've had a discussion with Justin Holbrook. But a lot of clubs have had a discussion with Justin Holbrook because he's got a great reputation and he could be part of any number of coaching setups. Were they to make the finals this year? I mean, he's done a super job.
They won't be changing their coach. There's no reason to change their coach. No reason to change their coach. Honestly. And if you're looking for information from the media in this town, well, you're going to be disappointed a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
You'll be misled a hell of a lot.
What's been the most impressive thing about Newcastle's revival? Well, they won 4 in a row now.
I think they're improving. Defensively. They've always had the attacking capabilities. I think keeping Kaylee Ponga on the field regularly, time spent playing together is important. They've got a new halfback this year in Jackson Hastings, so he's actually getting some time to get Kaylee Ponga the ball where he wants it and how he wants it. I think combinations are building. I think obviously Bradman Best is in brilliant form. The forwards are working hard as a unit. Defensively, they're getting better. So it's they've always had the ability to score points, but defensively they've failed a few times. And in the earlier in the year, they had a couple of big scorelines put on them. But I'm not seeing that at the moment. I think the confidence they're getting out of their attack has bleeded into their defence, and their defence is now showing semi-final style starch. Go down to Canberra on the weekend and only concede 1 try was an indication of where they are as a football team at the moment. And I think they'll be playing finals football. And that'll be exciting for the area and for their players.
All right, judiciary, you mentioned that. I just want to go over this, not so much in relation to whether it's fair or not, but the impact that these results at the judiciary are going to have, because Val Holmes went and challenged the grading and got thrown out of town, so instead of 3, he's got 4 weeks. Heavy blow, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this is what the RLPA should be campaigning about, not some of the other rubbish they go on with. I think our judiciary is far too harsh. Players get suspended far too easily and for far too long. Too many players are out of the game or being overfined for these offences. I think we've got way too pedantic with a lot of that, but that's just my view on it. Others will have a different view, but that's not a 4-week suspension. That's not a 4-week tackle in any way, shape or form. And I don't care if it's loading or previous or what have you. I don't care. It's not a 4-week tackle, nor should that player be out of the game for 4 weeks. Simple as that.
Okay. And Jack de Bellin. Now, I don't want to go deeply into this, but I'm stunned that de Bellin gets 4 weeks because they didn't even pick it up in the first place. They went back 2 minutes.
I don't see it as a hip drop tackle anyway. That's not what I would class as a hip drop tackle. Again, oversensitive, and it builds on itself, and then you end up with a player out of the game for a month. Why does he need a month on the sidelines? I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't agree with it in any way, shape or form. I think our judiciary is way too harsh. Players get suspended way too early. I don't like the carryover points. I don't like the early pleas. I don't like the whole process. I really don't. I don't think it's fair at all. And that's, if I'm the Players Association, that's what I'm going to task with the NRL.
Okay. I was going to put some names to you, but I'm just going to throw it open. Who have you signed this week? Who can you tell the Dogs fans about? Blake Taaffe.
Who did we announce? We announced Blake Taaffe. Yep.
Have you announced anyone else?
Jamin Salmon.
That's a good one.
Yeah, from the Panthers.
You like him?
Well, I was always going to sign him at some stage of my life. Jamin, I've watched his football from the age of 9. He played in rival teams to when my son was playing in the Cronulla Shire and Silent Shire down there at Cronulla, and he was a very good player coming through. My son played with him in OzTag teams and representative teams, and we went away to all those OzTag tournaments, and I saw him win tournaments virtually on his own.
Wasn't he a gun? He was an OzTag player, wasn't he?
Well, he was, and they won junior rep competitions, and he was a mainstay of that team. In that team was young Metcalf, who's currently playing for the Warriors. Bronson Zeri was in that team. And Jamin Salmon was probably the main playmaker in that side of 5'8". And right from an early age, I just figured him to be... He reminded me very much of Wade Graham at the same age. Wade Graham played NRL at a very young age, or first grade at a very young age, as a 5'8", but graduated into one of the game's really astute left side back row forwards. And I just saw Jamin Salmon as a right-sided version of Wade Graham, and that's where his career would end to. He had some wild child stuff in his younger days, and at one stage there he came out to see us at Penrith, but he decided to sign with Parramatta, and things didn't work out too good for him there. But a couple of years later, Penrith did sign him, and he's done extremely well, and he's turned into a really professional young man, and he's done a great job playing with the leading club in the competition. He's learned how to be a professional footballer. I guess he's playing regular first grade with pretty much any other team in the competition. He's got plenty of good players up there. He's been used pretty much off the bench and in a couple of roles. But now at 24 years of age, I think he's ready to go on with. And he's made, he's got all that schoolboy rubbish behind him now. I think he's become a really talented young man and a professional young man. And I'm looking forward to having him in the system at the Bulldogs. We've got Blake Taaffe from South Sydney. So clubs that have been successful in recent times, like South and the Panthers, recruiting players from there, I think will bring a new edge and a new level of professionalism to our club, and hopefully educate a lot of our young players in what it really takes to be an NRL footballer. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for not just footballers and football IQ, but I'm looking for people who understand what being professional at the highest level takes and what it means. And if you can happen to get some players out of the top clubs who aren't quite regulars in those clubs, although we've signed a player like Stephen Crichton, who I think is a big acquisition for our club. I think that's really important. So, that's where I said, and you've got to get at the good value, because salary caps are hard to manage. So those sort of players that have still got what I believe to have the best in front of them are very, very important. And Jamin and Blake Taaffe, I'm confident they've got their best football in front of them yet. They're still only young, and they've already had a good grounding. Blake's played in grand finals, and Wayne Bennett picked him as a fullback in a grand final for South Sydney.
I reckon he's done a super job for them this year.
He fills in for Latrell at South Sydney and does a really good job. He's easily one of the best reserve grade players. Whenever he plays New South Wales Cup, he proves every week that he's too good for that grade. So, and he covers a number of positions, 7, 6, 1. He could play a bench role at lock or even dummy half if he had to. He's open to all those sort of opportunities. He just wants to play regular NRL, and so too with Jamin. It's a tough school out there at Penrith. It's hard to get a starting spot out there in that squad with so many representative class players and the side so successful. So he's looking to play more regular NRL and create competition for spots at the Bulldogs, which will serve us well. But at some stage in my life, I was always going to sign Jamin Salmon, and I just think I've picked the right time. I think this is the right time for him to go to another level.
Okay. When you're forming a roster, you've sort of answered that question, I suppose, with Blake Taaffe, but do you sign players with a role in mind? Have you?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
For the Bulldogs fans out there, you're going to see Blake.
There's a lot of things that go into recruitment, and depending on whether you're a top team in the competition or a bottom team, a middle rung team, whether there are other aspects of personality and character and everything you're looking for as well, experience. Sometimes you're looking for a 32-year-old player to come in and be a leader, take up a leadership role, and there are off-field issues to consider. Younger players and even young fellas, teenagers we recruit. We go and talk to their parents, we talk to their family, we talk to their school teachers, we talk to anyone as the coaches that they've ever had.
School teachers?
Yeah, we go and check out school.
Have you got a funny story for us, player unnamed, about a school report?
No.
You do, but you're not going to tell.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell.
Hey, Connor Watson?
Some their attendance wasn't that great.
Except on sports days.
Yeah. When you go to the school, I'm just saying, who? He's not here all that often.
Yeah, that's right.
No, and school's not for everyone. School's not for everyone. And for a lot of those young kids, sometimes school's not for them. We have a policy, and we've always had it. We had it at Penrith, and I think most clubs do the same, but we've certainly got it at the Bulldogs. No work, no study, no play. The first talk that all the young kids get every year is from me about a plan B. That if they fail at rugby league or rugby league fails them, then they need to have a plan B. And they might come to us looking for an NRL career. They will leave with an education, hopefully. So they've either got to be in school, they've got to be in tertiary education, they've got to be doing an apprenticeship or getting a trade, or they've got to be working. If you don't do any of it, you don't play football. It's as simple as that. So we try to build that work ethic into them and at least give them something to go with. And most of our success stories are fellas that didn't play NRL. But they got a trade, they got a career, they got a degree, they got, the fella who built the academy at Penrith, right, $21 million academy, was 2IC at Multiplex at the time. Young fella called Stephen Boss, who came to us in the early 90s. I think he played 3 first grade games.
All right.
But we put him through civil engineering, and he came back many, many years later to actually be the chief driver of building the academy at Penrith as the 2IC for Multiplex, and built it to the dollar, to the day, without a delay. Brilliant. Did an absolutely brilliant job with it. And he came down, Stephen. We actually signed his brother, Andrew, Andrew had terrible injury problems and couldn't, and didn't get on the field all that much. He was a great talent. He also went through university. He's in private equity now and very, very successful. But Stephen was his big brother, and the family sent Steve to come down and play as well. So big Steve came down, played a few first grade games. Good kid. He came to a reunion out there when I was first there, and because he was picking up his Silver Panther, we gave all our ex-players a number and a Panther as a memento, and he came down to pick up his. He played several first grade games and very, very proud of it. Good, tough country footballer too, a big fella.
Where's he from?
Orange. And
Gee, that's a breeding ground, isn't it?
I remember sitting in their lounge room having spaghetti bolognese. His mum cooked spaghetti bolognese for us. We went out there, Jimmy Jones and I, to sign up Andrew Boss, and we come home with Andrew and Stephen Boss.
Did you?
Yeah.
What happened to Glenn?
Anyway,
you didn't sign Glenn?
Glenn Boss, no, he was a jockey. They were a bit bigger than him. Glenn wouldn't have got any feed at that table, I tell you.
Well, he couldn't eat.
Yeah, but it was funny because one of the earlier player reunions we had out there at Penrith, I gave a speech on the night and talking about the things we were planning. And at the time, the Panthers Academy was just a pipe dream. It was just a sketch on a piece of paper that, what I envisaged it might look like into the future and what we were trying to build. And I sort of gave a speech about it. And the reason I gave a speech was because the Minister for Sport was in the room, Graham Annesley, at the time, and I'd been campaigning with him for funding, and we ended up not getting funding for it. We paid for it ourselves. But at the end of it, Steve Boss come and sat down with me at the table, and he said, talk to me about this community centre, this academy you're trying to build. I was sort of talking to him, and I hadn't seen Stephen for many, many years. He was in early 90s out there at Penrith, and he sat down, he's talking to me, we're just having a beer together, and I said, what's your interest in this? He says, I build them. He said, I just built one out at Campbelltown. They built Randwick Racecourse, the big new facility at Randwick. He's very, very big at Multiplex. He's moved from there. He's with another company now. But he said, I can help. He said, are you really serious about this? And I said, yeah. So we actually went and put in submissions to the state and federal government. We got government funding out there for a community facility, which wasn't built in my time, but the Rugby League Academy, Multiplex delivered it. Stephen Boss came out, helped architecturally designed it with all our staff. All our staff had a contribution into it and designed it really well. We were really lucky because we owned the land. That's a big factor there. We owned all that land around the club there on Mulgoa Road there, the Panthers, and we were able to put 2 beautiful football fields and a nice car park out the back out there. And it was flood zone. We had to raise the ground in the club to meet with 100-year flood requirements.
It was 100-year flood last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and it only just survived. He built it. He came in and helped us enormously, and it was his. And he was proud of that because
that'd be a massive kick.
He really wanted to help back in. And it was just a chance meeting. He happened to be on that night when I was talking about it, and he came over to us, and the club was had been stung in the past with buildings and all sorts of things that had been done in the past, and having someone in that industry that you could really trust and to guide you through it and what it would look like into the future. And there was a master plan for the whole area, which has been executed since that time. But Stephen Boss was mighty in that. And
Good on you, Stephen. I bet Stephen's fallen off the lounge. He's the star of the podcast.
I had dinner with him the other night. Funny
enough.
Did you? Yeah, a couple of mates. We have dinner 2 or 3 times a year.
Very nice.
And, they're not as long and they're not as liquid as they used to be back in the old days. But we had a steak together in town the other night and talking about the old times. He's a great sportsman, and he did a wonderful thing. It was great for Panthers to have someone like that in the industry that we could trust. And he built it to the day. He said, "I'll finish it on this day and for this dollar."
That's very rare, isn't it?
Yeah, never blew out in costs or anything like that. It was absolutely brilliant. So,
ask Gus. See, my bit, not yours. Since he's dropping from Origin, has Nicho Hynes' game not been up to his usual standard, and what does that come down to? Asked Peter M.
Oh, I don't think you can put it down to Nicho Hynes. I think his team has been struggling a little bit defensively and controlling the ball, and and professional football. This is what makes the great players so great. Professional football, you've got all this information now. You've got all these technology to evaluate people's performances and break it down to the most minute level, and video replays and from all angles, and players and teams can become creatures of habit and predictable, and you play on the predictability of your opposition. You can actually control the way your opposition plays by the way that you play, and people, very smart people, these coaches and players, put a lot of work into containing and controlling the players in the opposition team that can cause them the most trouble. Now, that might necessarily be getting to Nicho Hynes, but it might be getting to all the other players around the middle of the field that might create the space and the time and the opportunity for him to come into his own. I don't think Sharks have looked like playing with confidence for a long time. I don't think it's down to Nicho Hynes. Nicho Hynes, I think, could well be a victim of how the Sharks are going. I don't think the Sharks are a victim of Nicho Hynes. And that eats into everyone's confidence, and sometimes everyone can feel like they're to blame, or if you're in a real bad situation, everyone thinks someone else is to blame. And both can be a little bit, both can be difficult for your team to overcome. So the Sharks, I thought the other night, and I said this on 100% footy, I've been kind of potting them a little bit. I just haven't seen them getting enough wins to get to the finals the way they're playing, and they were sort of going backwards. But I saw some hope for them the other night. I thought against Penrith they were actually really good. It was the best committed team performance. The themes that we look for are players that are contributing to a team game, what we call team-based actions. And I thought they were really diligent in a lot of the areas where they've been falling down for some time. And I would imagine that the scoreboard would have been really frustrating for the players and the coach, because they were actually playing really well in a lot of areas where they had been playing poorly. Now, they didn't attack very well, but they didn't get a lot of ball to attack. They're playing the best in the business, whose defences can intimidate anybody. But I thought defensively they were the best they've been for a long time. Penrith scored 3 tries off kicks and a couple of rough ones there, and the other one with Brian To'o's feet out into the grandstand over in the corner. They were tackling him as he scored. So it wasn't as though Penrith were pouring through them at any time. And I thought there was some real resilience there. 28-0 was probably not fair on the Sharks. And given the amount of ball that Panthers had at their end of the field, it could have been a lot worse.
It was 60-40 the possession.
Yeah, I was anticipating a lot worse. But I thought the Sharks stood up to it. Now, I don't know how they'll review that. I don't know how they'll see themselves after that performance. I'm not in the dressing room and I'm not at training this week. But if they sit down and watch that in the cold light of day and turn the commentary down and just watch the football and not so much look at the scoreboard, but just look at the results of each play, I thought there were some real effort areas in there that they can build upon to restore their confidence and get their game back on track. And hopefully that then bleeds over into their attacking game. I think they needed to get confidence for their attacking game from their defence. Their defence had to stand up. And I thought it did the other night, despite the 28-0 scoreline. I thought it was much, much better than it has been. And if they can do that, they'll give their attack a chance, and Nicho Hynes will come into his own. So, if any player, be it Nicho Hynes or anyone, is kind of feeling guilty or feeling the pressure of that, then the coaches need to deal with that. Or if, on the other hand, which has probably been happening in recent weeks, players are kind of pointing the finger at others and saying, well, it's not my job, it's his job, or, he's going worse than me, or I'm going better than him, then you've got a problem. It's a team game, and you've got to face it together, and everyone can do a little bit more. And if you want to do something to help yourself, do something to help the team. Do something to help a teammate. That's how you help yourself. But Cronulla looked very isolated for a long time. The other night, it looked more of a team. It really did, and led by a bloke like Cam McInnes, who gets out and diligently goes about his work for 80 minutes and comes up with 81 tackles. I mean, if that's not an inspiration to everyone, I don't know what is. And that's what you need. You need inspiring efforts. I thought there were some real inspiring efforts in that Sharks performance. And despite the frustration of the scoreboard was ticking against them, possession was ticking against them, if now they can just get a little bit more ball control and control where the game is played a little bit more, and then bring that same enthusiasm in defence, they mightn't be far away from a win. And you know, like, who do they play this week? They play the Rabbitohs.
Yeah.
The Rabbitohs weren't so good the other night.
In Perth.
Yeah, I thought, you know, now Rabbitohs are likely to come out and blow them away. They've got that talent to do that, but you know, Sharks are not out of that game by any stretch of the imagination. So, what was your question? Nicho Hynes has not been up to his usually high standard. Well, no, he hasn't, but I don't think that's all been his fault. I think the Sharks haven't been up to their usual high standard.
Binksy asks, are you now a fan of the first half field goal? Isn't it amazing, everyone watching rugby league, as soon as Matt Burton kicked that, thought of you?
Yeah.
Were you watching?
Yeah.
What'd you do? Collapse?
I groaned. I thought, what was that? What was he possibly thinking?
Mate, it was a traceable kick. He's about 36 metres out.
He can kick him from anywhere. He can kick. I mean, he won a game.
Oh, the one from the sideline this year was unreal.
Cowboys was brilliant, you know, and he, and they're sort of things that will develop in Matt's game over time, and he'll have a reliability with it. His goal kicking is improving out of sight.
Oh, how good's he kicking?
And I said on 100% footy, not improving. He's always been a good goal kicker, but he just needed time. We don't score enough tries. He doesn't get enough kicks under pressure under game conditions. If you come and watched him practice, you'd think he'd never miss.
He's kicked at 84%.
Yeah, but you'd think he'd never miss. If you come and watch him practice with Darryl Halligan at training, field goals and goals, and it's meticulous.
I'd love to watch it.
But you put him into game pressure, it's completely different conditions, you know, and you know, obviously there's some fatigue sets in, and you know, you're playing at night time and daytime and wind and dew and rain and all sorts of things. But the one that actually made the big difference was his conversion from the sideline on the Blake Wilson try late in the game to get it to a 5-point lead, because if he misses that and it's only a 3-point lead, then the Milford try puts the Dolphins in front. So that was a really important kick to get from 3 to 5, because it then makes the Dolphins have to convert their try. And then there was a couple of efforts to keep that try out near the wing, which made Osaka have to kick from the sideline in the conditions, and he missed the goal. But in the end, it was a 1-point win, and people point to the field goal. Well, if you didn't kick the field goal, it still would have been 22-all, and you're still in the game. But without the conversion from the sideline, that's why goal kicking is so important. And when you've got a really good one, it's an advantage to you. The thing I looked about Matt Burton on the weekend was that goal from the sideline to give it the 5-point lead. I think was crucial, and it was a wonderful kick, because it's not easy. You know, they're playing at Bundaberg there. It's on a cricket pitch. It's
is that a cricket pitch?
It's a cricket oval, Salter Oval. It's a cricket oval.
Geez, I wouldn't mind batting there.
Yeah, and small goalposts. I mean, it's not normal surroundings, and his field goal was nice, but there was no real pressure on it. No one was seeing it coming. There wasn't anyone running at him. I don't know why he did it.
You know what happened to get back-to-back games?
Yeah.
Townsend did the same thing.
Yeah,
and they got beat.
And they lost. So
1 for 1.
The 1-point field goal.
1 from 2.
The first half field goal didn't last too long.
That's right. All right. Last one, and doesn't have the name here, but if Pappy returns to full health, when's he going to come back from Melbourne? He's back this week. How good? In the Sunshine Coast Falcons. And they're saying they usually get about 1,500 there.
Yeah.
What are they saying? 5,000 or something?
Yeah, we packed out. I think was I talking on here or on the podcast about seeing some video of him, some private video the other day?
You did. You said that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so he was always close to a return. It's been a terrible injury and a long and painful rehabilitation. Let's hope he bounces back to his best. Injury is a part of our sport, and I know too well because I had a number of them myself. But I see players who get repeated injuries. Some players, their whole career is affected by 2 or 3 bad injuries, and they never get the chance to fulfil their potential. Some injuries they don't overcome. Others are so resilient and overcome injuries and come back to playing. Some overcome injuries where people have told them they shouldn't play again or they'll never be the same again. This was a very, very serious injury, and it's a credit to the medical team and Papenhuyzen himself to get himself back on the field. I think that's a marvellous achievement in itself. And let's hope it all goes well for him. Let's hope he gets back to his brilliant best. And if he does, he'll certainly be an X factor for Storm leading into the finals. I think that would be optimistic.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, I think that would be, well, that'd be wonderful. I'm not saying it won't happen or can't happen, but I'm saying we shouldn't put that sort of expectation on him. I'm just happy for him to be back on the field and hope it all goes well and he gets through this year with the confidence to train hard during the off-season and be back again next year. Now, if for some miracle he comes back anywhere near his best and he can play finals football with the Melbourne Storm, well, that's a big bonus for them, absolutely a massive bonus. And that's taking nothing away from Nick Meaney, who's done a wonderful job.
Well, you've got to find a spot in the team for him somewhere. The other thing to remember about Pappy, he'd only got back and playing consistent footy after all the head knock stuff. So really, the last 3 years he's barely played at all.
Yeah, players have, some players have had their careers dogged by injury and repeated injuries. And
in fact, you can think back to the Origin series of 2020. He was in line to get a call up for Freddie's team and didn't play because of injury, and he's hardly strung a game together since then. Yeah. So, but just remember how great he is, and it'll be great to see him back and on the field. So good luck, Ryan Papenhuyzen, one of our electric footballers. 6 tackles trivia. I want to delve in and have a good preview of these games because I reckon there's a few upsets this weekend.
You reckon?
Well, I'll find out what you think.
Okay.
Before Saturday, the last time Manly defeated the Dragons at Wynn Stadium was way back in 2003, Gus.
That's 20 years ago now.
That's right.
2003, 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Jeez, I'm getting old. I'm really getting old.
Can you tell me who the coaches were for the respective clubs in that game?
For which teams?
Manly and Dragons.
Wow.
Have a think about that while we take a break on 6 Tackles with Gus. We'll have a preview of NRL and NRLW after this. 6 Tackles trivia. Before Saturday, the last time Manly defeated the Dragons in Wollongong was 20 years ago, 2003. Who were the coaches for Manly and the Dragons respectively?
2003.
Good question, Jordan.
I've got a... who comes up with these questions? You do.
Right there. Used to be me. Now they've fallen off a cliff since
2003 Dragons. Pretty sure that might have been the Nathan Brown era.
Correct. There's one. We need a ding.
Manly...
We got a ding?
Manly's got me stumped a little bit. When did the Northern Eagles end? It's not my old mate Peter Sharp.
Oh, yes. How good are you going?
Peter Sharp?
Peter Sharp.
Nathan Brown. 2 of the all-time greats. Peter Sharp is our recruitment manager at the Bulldogs. Wonderful old man. Old man. We're both old men.
You can't call him that.
We're both old men.
You can't call him that.
He tells me every day.
He's a wonderful old man.
He retires every day.
Does he?
Every day he asks me for redundancy.
Does he really?
Every day. And his wife says, don't you dare.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right.
Keep him working. Don't let him stay at home.
He's a wonderful old man.
Champion old bloke.
He's a good bloke, Chubby. He coached the Northern Eagles, didn't he? Who was it? He was their inaugural coach.
He coached in England.
Coached Parramatta. I think it was interim. But
Cronulla. But he's worked with a number of clubs over the years. Knows absolutely everyone.
Does he?
Yeah.
Popular bloke, isn't he?
Yeah, he's brilliant. I love him. He's been really good.
Well done.
Every day he asks me for redundancy.
That's funny.
He says, finish me up.
Maybe one day when he says it, say, okay, there you go.
Nah.
See what he does.
No.
Hey, we asked last week for some favourite elements of old school footy. Now, apparently the submissions we've got are too inappropriate to put to air. I want to give it a little bit more scope.
What I got last week was a number of emails from people in the Penrith area saying that doctor delivered them as a child. All the people that doctor delivered. Yeah, that's. Yeah.
I've never got so many messages in my life of people saying that's the funniest story of all time. That is the funniest story of all time. Yeah. Or were you delivered by the gynecologist in Penrith? Old school stuff. I'm thinking shoulder pads. I'm thinking now what was the boot polish under the eyes? What was that?
That was a Jack Gibson thing. So in the old days, the only nighttime football you had was midweek cup football.
Yeah.
They used to have a midweek cup football called the Amco Cup. It used to be played on Wednesday nights. And it was a knockout competition. It was played pretty much exclusively at Leichhardt Oval, the new Leichhardt Oval. So when they turned it from being an east-west ground to a north-south and they put lights in there, it was the only ground that had lights good enough for television. I think that's where Ray Warren cut his teeth in the old MK Cup back in the day. And Jack Gibson, who was always an innovator and had been across to America, they did it in the NFL. What they did was they'd put the black puke polish under their eyes, and that would supposedly stop the glare of the lights off the sweat on your cheek.
Right.
It was a job.
Did it last long?
Well, Jack's teams did it, so as soon as Jack did something, everyone copied it.
The boot polish under the eye.
Boot polish under the eyes. It was ridiculous. I wouldn't do it.
But then there was the famous one when St George went over to play. I remember it. Played at the Wacker against Western Reds, and they all came out with those. It might have been the Western Reds. They came out with those bike pants on. The old torpedoes. Remember that?
That was a Brian Smith thing.
Yeah.
They had those big bike pads with the pads on the legs, so you wouldn't get a cork thigh. But yeah, they were innovations.
They didn't last long either.
I remember one year Tim Sheens at Penrith back in the 80s. He made every player wear a headgear. Oh. And they went out to play. It was about 42 degrees.
Oh.
There was headgears getting tossed everywhere into the crowd. Everyone had to wear a headgear. Shoulder pads. There was the famous
shoulder pads.
There was the famous shoulder pads for the Bulldogs back in the 80s.
Well, Ciro used to be a big.
Yeah, you don't see shoulder pads.
Never see them at all anymore.
No, you never see shoulder.
So that's what I mean. That is the brief.
They didn't really shin pads
in footy.
Yeah, front rowers and hookers used to wear shin pads.
I didn't know that.
All the kicking in the scrums. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. Mick Stevenson, the great English international who played at Penrith, and he was our captain. He used to use newspapers. He'd have rolled up newspapers and wrap them around his shins.
Oh, really?
True. And then he put the shin pads on top of those. Yeah, you see pictures of him. His legs were bulging from the knee down. And
that couldn't be good for your mobility.
Well, in the scrums, there was a lot of kicking, and and everyone had long steel studs.
Oh,
God! They were nailed into your boots, the old boots.
And this is old school.
You had ankle high boots, and forwards wore ankle high boots because they were in the scrum, and there wasn't a lot of striking for. There was a lot of kicking.
So when you say nailed into your boots,
well, I had to nail them. That's how they were manufactured. And that's why they'd come and check your boots before a game to make sure that they were nailed in properly.
What happened with the nail?
Remember how the referees go in and check your boots? It was because in the old days, your studs were nailed in.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, and they had to make sure that the nails or that someone hadn't filed the steel studs down to make them look like pointy so they could hurt you. So
they must have been desperately uncomfortable.
Yeah, and sometimes players would have to change their studs because they weren't.
Oh, that makes me want to vomit.
Yeah, everyone's got moulded soles now. They don't really have to check the boots that much, and they're screwed in. They're not nailed in. But in the old days, the old boots. I'll see if I can find an old pair of boots with the old nails in them.
But would the nail ever go through the sole?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You blokes are mad, honestly.
Read them tough in that days, buddy.
So this is the brief. That's the old school stuff we're looking for, and we'll read a few of them out and get Gus to.
Don't drink water.
Oh,
weren't allowed to drink water during training.
My God. How someone did
the St John's ambulance. The St John's ambulance on the sideline. He was your medic. You used to have the fellas would be there in the long black suit and pants, and he had these little doctor's bag. The St John's ambulance. He was the medic on the day. You didn't have your own doctor or physio. The St John's ambulance man.
You can't believe it, can you?
Yeah. There's that great story of Fonda Matassa up in Queensland.
Yeah, he jumped out of the back of the ambulance.
Jumped out of the. They've picked him up and put him on the back of a stretcher and put him in the back of the ambulance, and the ambulance is slowly going off the ground. As it gets towards the end goal, the brake lights come on. The door's open, but out jumps Fonda. He's right to go. He's going to play.
That's the funniest story ever.
He's going to play on. Oh. Yeah, the old St John's ambulance man. Yeah.
So
sometimes the game was held up because the St John's ambulance man was running late, or he'd been called off down the road to deliver a baby or something.
It's like the races. We can't start because we can't. The ambulance isn't on track.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, that is old. See that stuff. Give us some of that stuff. We'll talk about it next week.
The black and white corner posts used to jump out on the field and steal them.
Okay.
Old fashioned. What are the viewers going to?
Well, I want some submissions, and we'll bring them up, and you can sort of reminisce about whether
the magic sponge. Come out and hit you.
The magic sponge. The magic sponge.
Yeah.
What was ever in that bloody thing?
Nothing. Water. Just magic sponge.
Well, the magic spray was the other one.
Yeah.
What did that do?
Yeah.
What was that?
Did nothing.
No, but it seemed to work.
It did
nothing.
Seemed
to work.
It did absolutely nothing. There's a good story when Newtown, Warren Ryan was coaching Newtown. We had a trainer called Les Motto. Les was a Eastern Suburbs identity, knockabout bloke. And anyway, Warren's got him on the sideline. And he's giving this whole detailed list of instructions, Get out to Kenny Wilson and tell Kenny Wilson I said he's got to do 2 of these and 1 of these and 2 of these and 1 of those, and he's got to get to this point and do this and blah, 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 blah. And Les is standing there looking at him, and Warren's telling him with this big tight. He said, now get out there and tell him. So Les goes running out to the field, whispers in Kenny Wilson's ear and comes back off again. Of course, none of it happens. Nothing goes on. We won the game anyway. So in the dressing room after the game having a beer, and Warren Ryan said to Kenny Wilson, he said, did Les give you that message? He said, what message? He said, I told him to get out and give you a message about 1 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these, blah, blah, blah. He said, no, he hit me with the yellow sponge and said, weave some magic, champion. Weave some magic, champion.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's old school. All right, NRLW this week, Thursday. So tomorrow, Roosters Dragons at the cricket ground. It's going to be good. It's an Anzac Day style setup.
Yeah, the Roosters got ambushed the other day down in Canberra, the NRLW team. Gee whiz, I thought they were super impressive in round 1, but the Raiders.
Your favourite played good. Semaima.
Yeah, Semaima was tremendous. She led right from the front. No, she was good. The Dragons are a good team too. It'll be a good game, that one. That's on at the SCG before the big game Thursday night.
Indeed.
Yep.
Okay. Any thoughts there?
Oh, do you want me to give a tip?
Well, you don't have to.
I'll tip Rooster to bounce back.
Okay, Rooster to bounce back. Yep. There, Saturday. Oh, Cowboys Broncos.
Yep.
You calling that?
No, I'm doing the men's game on Saturday night.
Well, what do you reckon about that one?
Yeah, that's I was very impressed with the Cowboys of Belmore the other day. Really good, strong side. They came from behind twice to beat Newcastle, who were last year's premiers, and the Broncos we know are a really good side. Gee, that's a really good game up in Townsville. I'm going to go Bronco to win that.
All right, Sharks Titans PointsBet Stadium, Sydney.
Yeah,
Titans are a good side.
Sharks were very brave on the weekend. They were kind of outclassed, and they lost a couple of key players during the game, and those players won't be back. I think they're a little bit down on injuries, and Titans are a very good side. I'll pick Titan.
Okay. Eels Knights.
Knights to bounce back.
Okay. And, the Raiders and the Tigers. Now, they've both gone good, haven't they, the Raiders and the Tigers?
Really good. Tigers, they're an exceptional side. I think they're a smoky for this competition. They've got some really talented girls in that team. And the Raiders were really impressive. I thought they were, round 1, they were beaten comprehensively by the Sharks at Shark Park, but they looked a little bit clunky, obviously being a new team in the competition. But didn't they turn it around last week? They were brilliant. They'll get a lot of confidence out of that, but I think this Tigers team is pretty special.
Special.
I'm going to ride on their coattails right the way through the tournament. I think Tigers are a good side.
Okay.
Yeah, Tiger to win.
All right. We like giving a general overview on our podcast, but if you would like an in-depth, blow-by-blow description of the NRLW, our mates Ruan and Marley Silva have NRLW Weekly, and that is out every Wednesday as well. So make sure you tune in to them. Round 23, thanks to Bluebet. What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, gamblinghelponline.org.au. We start at the cricket ground with the Roosters and Manly. With what can I tell you here with respect to team news? I'm just going to flick through my little device, which has been running hot today. I've got all sorts of things going on that I'm dealing with for work. Stand by. Okay, Egan Butcher's out. So Sua Wong comes in for his 4th game of the year. Now, he's the one that you've been telling us is a good young prospect.
He's a brilliant young prospect.
Great.
A brilliant young prospect. I really can understand how he hasn't got a start before this. They've also got a young forward on the bench that I like too, a kid called Terrell May.
Oh, yeah, he can
one
play.
One of the May boys.
And then Tui Pilotu's out. So
yeah.
Raymond Tuimalu Vaenga, who we saw play a couple of games, and he put a big shot on, and got suspended for it. He's back in the NRL. So, it's a close game.
It is. Manly just looked to be struggling for wear and tear. I mean, they were brilliant against the Sharks the other day, but died in the last 15 minutes, and the Sharks nearly pulled it off. And then again the other night, they were going better than the Dragons, but could have easily lost that game and just scraped home. I don't know that there aren't a few of their players playing with injury and struggling a little bit. And, I keep looking at the team. I mean, how the Roosters only won 7 games this year? It's ridiculous. 7 or 8 games this year. It's ridiculous.
Teddy's come out and said during the week, we have to win every game. So I'm wondering whether that's an indication into their mindset. Well, maybe they've steeled themselves.
They should have had that mindset some time ago because they need to bounce back really quickly. I'm going to tip Rooster.
Okay. Friday, 6 p.m.
I think Manly might be running on empty a little bit at the moment.
Okay. 6 o'clock up at Seabus Super. Titans are $3.10. Warriors are $1.37. Now, I actually thought that the Cowboys would just win last week. Well, they ran into a pretty a tough effort by the Titans. They played a very, what's the word for it? Robust style of footy. They didn't give them anything. They were good.
They were really good. And if you remember the week before, they were down 30-0 at halftime against the Roosters.
That's right.
They mixed their form. And the comment you just made there, you just expected the Cowboys to win. I think the Cowboys had that attitude. That's how it looked to me. And they kind of had a false lead at halftime, and then probably just hoping the Titans would go away and they'd get to a victory and maybe better next week. And that happens sometimes, and if you're not on your game, sometimes it's hard to get it back, and they just didn't. So I don't think the same applies to the Warriors, who seem to be treating every team they play like they want something that they've got, and they're denying them of it, and they're both in attack and defence getting better and better. I don't think the Warriors have peaked yet. I really don't. I don't think
they're getting better, no doubt.
They're getting better every week, so I think they'll be too good for the Titan up there.
All right. I'll tell you who's been super this year for Titans is Jaden Campbell.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Jeez, good to watch, isn't he?
He's a really good player. Really good player.
He's a lot tougher than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
For a blockbuster Friday night Bluebet Stadium. Panthers versus Storm. Zach Hosking's been named in the centres. I can't see that happening. They've got Tungor in 20 and Jenkins in 21 on the bench. And for Melbourne, Nelson's back. So Tom Eisenhuth goes to the bench. And Eli Katoa is also... Now, where's he? He's on the bench in 17, so he comes back from an eye problem. So this is two very formidable footy teams going head-to-head. Bearing in mind last time they met, Melbourne kicked out to an early lead. Penrith flew over the top of them and flogged them.
Well, that wasn't that long ago.
No, it was
only a few weeks ago down there under the covers at indoors. And Melbourne got off to a hot start with a charge down and a penalty goal and then another try. And I thought, gee whiz. And then all of a sudden, Panthers just clicked into gear and scored 36-2 or something for the rest of the game. It was phenomenal. And did it easily. Did it really easily. They've got a great rivalry, these two clubs, and they've certainly been the benchmark for some time now. But out there at Penrith on a cool Friday night, a little bit of dew on the field. Melbourne have gone there and beaten them before. I'm just a little bit miffed as to where Justin Olam and Remus Smith are at the moment. They've gone for Marion Seve and young Tonamapia in the centres. Are they injured?
Yep.
I thought they were playing Queensland Cup.
Oh.
Anyway, Sofa Solomona is a big in, but Panthers, crikey, they only need to score 12 each week to win. Their defence is so good, and you can't tip against them out there at Penrith, so I'm going Panther.
Okay. 3 o'clock. This is a curious time for a game, actually, in Townsville. We don't see too many 3 o'clock Saturday games. It'd be bloody hot, wouldn't it?
No, it will be warm.
240 Cowboy, $1.58 Bronco. Now, we know that Val Holmes is gone. He'd been named, but he's gone for 4 weeks.
That's a big loss.
Yeah.
That's a massive loss.
Oh, huge. So they've got a couple of options. One of them is that they can just bring young... what's the young centre? Oh, they've got Brendan Elliott on the extended bench. Where's Labert? Is he there?
No.
Right.
They've also got Kyle Felt on the bench.
Yes, well, I was wondering if Felt comes onto the wing and Valame goes to centre.
Probably something like that. All of a sudden, no Nane, no Valentine Holmes. And this is what happens. If you don't get the early part of your season right, you can come good at the back end of the year and make a run, which the Cowboys are obviously doing, but it only then takes a couple of injuries and you haven't got that buffer to be losing games. They need to be winning, and they dropped one last week. They should have won. Now they're playing the number 2 team in the competition, and I don't see Brisbane getting it wrong. Honestly, I don't. I just think the Broncos will be too good for them. Reece Walsh, the Reece Walsh, Adam Reynolds combination is just too good. You got Payne Haas there and Flegler, Pat Carrigan. Crikey, what a side! Yeah, Bronco to win, and I think win comfortably in that one.
Ooh, okay.
Mind you, it's always close between the two clubs, isn't it? They've had some great battles over the years, but I think Bronco wins comfortably.
Yeah, okay. Griffin Neem's in, by the way, and so is Hillam Lukey's back. So there's a couple of ins to offset those absences, perhaps.
Yep.
Dolphins 3.20, Newcastle $1.35. Optus Stadium, Perth double header.
Yep.
Nicho Hynes has gone from 5/8 to centre. He's played everywhere. Milford to 6, and same 17 for Newcastle.
Yep. Knight by a lot.
Hey. All right. Rabbitohs Sharks. What can I tell you? Tom Burgess and Michael Cheekham are back.
Yep.
Will Kennedy's out, as we know, and they're saying he might miss the rest of the year, which is a cruel blow. Connor Tracy, fullback. Ronaldo's back on the wing.
Yep. It's a big loss, the fullback. Big loss, the fullback. As I said, I saw improvement in the Sharks the other night, but whether it's enough to contain the Rabbitohs, I don't know. I thought Rabbitohs were pretty average the other night. I thought West Tigers were probably the better side for most of it. Maybe it was playing up in Tamworth. Maybe they're just a little bit rusty because they haven't had some players back there for a while. But now that he's been ruled out, and Connor Tracy's a handy player, but Sifa Talakai back in the centres, Braden Trindle, Nicho Hynes. Now, I think it'll be closer than people think, but probably Rabbit prevails there.
This is the one that's got me interested. Sunday, 2 o'clock, Combank. Parrot $1.16. Dragon $5.25.
Yeah.
Gee, Parramatta going well. I mean, they've got Dylan Brown back, so that's obviously significant. They've made a lot of changes. Now, Lumi's in, Wonga Blake's gone.
Yeah.
Joe Offengawe, Ryan Madison, and Joey Lussick are all in.
Yeah.
So Brendan Hands has been dropped. So he's obviously not happy with what he's seen recently, and particularly against Melbourne.
Davey,
Are they going good enough to be $1.16 against anyone?
They've got 4 middle forwards on the bench. They'll probably have to change that, I think, at some stage. Although, not much there. Musgrove, Croucher, looking at the bench there. Jack de Bellin's out. He's been suspended. The Dragons were pretty good the other night. Dear. I'll back the Mitchell, Moses, Dylan Brown, Holmes combination to get them home. Eel, narrowly.
Yeah. Narrowly?
Narrowly. I
Yeah.
don't think there'll be much in it.
Yeah, but they seem like they're way too short the way they're playing. And some changes for Canberra. So Ruppen has gone to fullback. This is the game against the Tigers. Seb Chris, after playing a lot of the year at fullbacks, back at centre.
Really?
Yep. Kotrich is on the wing.
White and Fogarty, Papali'i, Wilford, Tapane, Young, Whitehead, Horsburgh, Trevelyan, Gula, Solo, and Mariota. Okay.
And Stefano and Bloor are out for the Tigers. Gee, you'd think Canberra would have to go and win that at home, wouldn't you?
Stefano's out, is he?
Out.
Yeah. Yes. They were a little bit embarrassed about St Knights last week. Knights really gave it to them. And Tigers, I think they've got a win in them before the end of the year. Maybe not this one. Maybe it'll have to be at home before they can get another win. I'll go Raider.
All right.
So with the whole round, I'm going Rooster, Warrior, Panther, Bronco, Knight, Rabbit, Eel, Raider.
Okay.
That's my tip this week.
That is 6 tackles with Gus. Now, what about the footy on 9? We've got all the home of the NRLW. We've added a Saturday night game for the rest of the year. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, NRL.
Yep.
And then all the women's games. We've never seen as much footy ever.
Brilliant.
Thanks, mate.
Good
See you
on you.
next week. That's 6 tackles with Gus. Look forward to joining you across the weekend as we cover all the action leading into the finals for 2023.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website